To that episode, I mean, I'm sure then did you see the ISIS?
Oh yeah.
That was
controversial. Yeah.
yeah.
It's funny, things that other people think are controversial, I'm like, that was pretty funny, and I don't think anything else of it, but got a few tongues wagging on Twitter. But these days I'm like, if you're I mean, you must be exhausted if you're writing outraged about things on Twitter, because there's something every freaking day that you can respond to. Like, can you believe this? Can you believe William Shatner didn't go to Leonard Nimoy's funeral? Let's write some angry tweets about that. I'm like, what do you care, man? I mean,
well, now you got to watch what you say on Twitter, because you might have ISIS threatening you, or you might, if you live in Canada, might get sued, right?
Yeah.
You hear about that?
No, I didn't hear about that.
Okay, so apparently there's a couple players on the Toronto Maple Leafs where there's a rumor that one of the players slept with the other player's wife.
Oh,
and so on the TSN, the hockey, on the TSN network, which is Canadian, they have a hockey show and they put tweets on the bottom. Well, somehow this tweet gets through. Either they're not paying attention or someone thought it would be funny, where it's like someone says, basically making a comment about the guy, having sex with the other guy's wife. And so now they're threatening to sue the guy who made the tweet and sue TSN. And the libel laws up there are different than here, obviously. So I don't know what they are, but I think kind of like Britain, I think it's a little easier to win your case over there than it would be here. Here, you probably wouldn't have a case because it's parody or you're just commentary or whatever. But now, again, I'm not saying he will win his case in Canada. Those guys will, or maybe they won't even go forward with it. Maybe they're just threatening to. But I found that interesting. How it's like, you got to have someone to like monitoring the tweets,
right?
And maybe being a little more selective in what you decide to put on the air, because I'm guessing they had to not be paying attention, because I can't believe that someone would be like, oh, this is funny, I'm going to put this on.
Well, it is amazing sometimes what people do tweet out thinking that it is funny or that it's just totally normal, and then then they're back 24 hours late, like Keith Olbermann going off.
He's done that a few times.
Yeah. I mean, that dude, he should not be on Twitter. Alec Baldwin shouldn't be on Twitter. None of these guys who get fired over saying this kind of stuff. Why are you even bothering?
And I know, I've done the same. I mean, I'm not on Twitter that much. I just use it to get my Smurf berries in the Smurfs game. So
there you go.
Yeah, it's pretty dorky.
Which is important.
It is. Important. But on Facebook though, I mean, I'm sure there's some things I've not maybe writing on the status, but commenting on other people's things where I thought to myself, I probably shouldn't have written that. You know what I mean? I did that the other night out at a bar having a few drinks and wrote something on someone's status that I thought I probably shouldn't have written that. But
you want to tell us about it now? Is it too much?
I'll tell you after the show. I'm not going to repeat it on here. There's nothing in for me in that doing that. But so I'll have to go delete it now, I guess. But,
well, I've gotten into arguments with people about stuff that I've mostly on Twitter. I don't even have enough followers to get into arguments. But one time I said something about Romney when he decided not to run for president. He decided not to run for president because he had a come to Mormon Jesus moment, instead of come to Jesus. And I was like, the Mormon Jesus is the one who's going to come to Missouri someday.
Supposedly.
And I just thought that was their doctrine. I read it on Wikipedia, and some dude who's it's a Mormon scholar or whatever. I guess he has some kind of alert if anybody writes about Mormonism. He reads those tweets or whatever. I don't know, but he all
was
he did.
Was it a tweet or was it on Facebook?
It was on Twitter.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I mean, probably a lot of times if you just write Romney and he's trending, it will show up. If they click on something about Romney, you may not know it, but your tweet will appear in that.
Okay. So all he did was tweet back at me, "Nonsense!" ! And that was one of those, I'm not going to get into Twitter war because I don't want to have to frame all my arguments in 140 characters or anything like that.
That'd be challenging.
So on Facebook, though, I have got it lengthy. And with those, it's not like I feel like, I wouldn't want other people to read this. I just feel like, why did I waste all my time arguing with this person who's never going to be convinced of my position? I'm never going to be convinced of their position. I don't know that I've ever truly said anything that was so, off the wall that I'm like, wow. But I think it's always about the context, and you have to sort of, if somebody did call attention to it, if it somehow got into a larger sphere, whatever, your job or whatever is aware of it. And we heard about this yesterday. We had at the college, we had a lawyer talk about some freedom of speech issues. And now these were people saying some pretty out there stuff, but it was somebody working on a cadaver and making Weekend at Bernie's jokes. That to me doesn't sound too off the wall, but that person had signed some kind of agreement that they would maintain certain professional standards and they wouldn't be writing in public forums about their job.
And I guess it depends on what you mean by freedom of speech, because I mean, certainly obviously there's a difference between the First Amendment rights and your employer can fire you. That's not protected on the First Amendment. But we talked about this before. I think we do live in a culture where you hopefully value some freedom of speech, just
Yeah.
a tradition of it, and not saying that every
Yeah.
time you say something offensive, you're going to lose your job. I mean,
Yeah.
that's not the society I want to live in.
Yeah. Bill Maher said something like that years ago about how, because of course he got fired for what he said after 9/11, and it's just like, he's like, if you want, same kind of thing. If you want to yell at people or argue against them, he's like,
Or don't watch their show.
Yeah,
anymore.
or
you
don't
have
watch
to
their
watch
show.
it.
It's like, why do we always have to make people go away?
Yeah.
Because
Unfollow them or
Yeah.
delete them as a friend, or
Yeah.
or hide their stuff. You can do all of those things.
Yeah.
And I mean, everyone can offend someone here and there, but I mean, I don't think we need to say you should be fired because now if it's a pattern of behavior over and over again, maybe you have a point. But one comment's going to get you fired.
Yeah.
I don't know.
People, we need to just chill.
Right. That's why I don't. I don't really post anything at work or anything. So and what I did post, we were talking about, I was off site. Someone who has nothing to do with this place, so I'm not like afraid here. But it's nice for you to be tenured. They can't fire you for doing that.
Yeah, I think at the very least they'd have to give me a warning first. But yeah, and you're right though. Part of it just has to do with what the when you actually sign something that says specifically don't do this, that, or the other, and people end up doing it, well then
in that case it's really your own fault because and I mean you're not always thinking about that.
Right.
And,
exactly.
But I mean in that case you do maybe have to. It's just self-censorship. I mean, I think if you think about it for 30 seconds or a minute and think, will this make anyone mad? And if you think it might, maybe don't write it.
The really tricky thing, though, is the thing, like the interview and now like this SNL thing. I mean, that's a tough one for me. I mean, I actually, as a consumer or as someone who likes entertainment or whatever, I'm like, yeah, the interview, ISIS thing. I think it's cool. And I think I personally, maybe I just don't have enough concern for my life that I would ever worry about ISIS coming all the way to, Hillsborough and taking me out. But the funny thing is, or the tragic thing is that it's not even just you'd have to worry about. Like they could go after your family members or whatever. So I'm sure, when they were making up that whole thing, that they went to Lorne Michaels, and Lorne Michaels probably went to the head of NBC or whoever he's got to get, lawyers or whatever, and saying, do you think we should do this? Can we do this? What's the deal? Because of course, once you do something like that, ISIS sends out their death threat. And obviously they've sent out so many death threats they can't possibly carry them all out. But I think those Twitter people should be worried. Apparently they're really super torqued that their special ISIS tweets got removed.
Right, suspending accounts.
So yeah.
I don't know. Well. It's a scary, scary world we're living in.
So scary. But I
just think those people are so, to me, it's like, I mean, we as a society, we value those, the freedom of speech, and I don't think we can let them scare us out.
No. That's why ultimately I'm the guy that says, and it is, like I said, it's a tough thing when it puts more than just you, the artist, in jeopardy. Like that guy over there doing those Danish cartoon, whatever. I mean, he's got to have like an entourage around him. People who show up to that, what was it, in France or whatever. People who show up to somewhere where he's at, suddenly they're in danger too. But I guess you just ultimately have to say, it's. You can either go, I don't want to put anybody in danger, so I'm not going to do it, or you have to say, hey, we can't back down to this stuff. Like I'm really kind of annoyed or whatever that ultimately everybody's kind of gone along with the whole thing, like never show an image of the Prophet Muhammad. A couple of people showed cartoons on TV. Well, a lot of people are like, they're on the website.
Right. Like South Park years ago had
that whole Prophet Muhammad.
Like we can show Jesus pooping at the end of the episode and bouncing around, because there aren't going to be Christians coming after us, but and they wanted to show it, but Comedy Central said, no, you're not doing that. And they didn't do it.
And to show you how ridiculous that got, when they were like, hey, here's this bear costume. Yeah. Do you remember that? And it's not, they're saying Muhammad is inside the bear costume.
Right.
They couldn't. They were even blocking out the bear. They showed it on TV, and they blocked out the. I'm like, that's not the Prophet Muhammad. So maybe that was just, I don't know, Comedy Central taking it to the.
I think it was. It was them worrying about what you just mentioned. Yeah. Not only that there could be some violence against their company or. Yeah. Their corporate, who owns them? Viacom, I think. I don't know.
Now I'm trying to give the crazies the benefit of the doubt. Like, come on, Comedy Central. They're just pissed off. They wouldn't care about a bear,